Savage Errands, the 6th Kuinkazner. Part 5. Balaroy and Hacks. Hours later, after countless rounds of 9 marins, 5 stones, jackals, 6 darts, trolls, taroks, and a little cartomancy, Balaroy threw open the door to the mead hall and swaggered out into the night. Hacks, as always, dutifully followed. His head raised high, Balaroy chuckled as he thumbed through a score of Sabler banknotes, the night's winnings. He would have also had a dozen excellent swords, but waging one's weapons in war was forbidden. In his other hand, he held a tankard of Ghost Rain rum from Poor Gables, that ever-rebelling port 50 leagues due east of his current obligation. Gulping down the last drink, he set the tankard on a weapons crate as he passed it. Unlike the vast majority of other men who enjoyed the elegance and sophistication of a good pipe, Balaroy preferred its far less reputable cousin, a rolled bundle of dried tobacco leaves, perfectly fermented, called a sorghero, or cigar. It was a popular choice for men like Balaroy, who found themselves working for the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare and strange auspices as rough captains, where their irregular service mitigated their various brig sentences, excessive debts, or other penalties. Or, in Hacks's case, simply because he could find nothing better to do. As the cigar was foreign to the Island of Arbonhale, it had become a staple of well-traveled men, ambassadors on the one hand, assassins and soldiers of fortune, on the other. It was so ubiquitous among the quiet killing class that it had become an unspoken means of identifying operators within that cruel trade. Among those brands he had sampled, he preferred Tremolora from the southernmost kingdom of Morgandy. As for Balaroy, he imposed himself equally by presence as by personality. He was a tall, burly, boisterous man with dark eyes, olive skin, and an unkempt goatee. He was at heart a festive man with a great booming laugh that came quickly and infected all who heard it. He wore a dark bandana on his head, an earring in his left ear for luck, after the manner of the Owenda, a clannish people who lived on a spear of land between 2 great rivers in Kimjudia, and layers of leather armor collected from a dozen campaigns across a dozen frontiers. He wore a thickly layered leather pauldron over his right shoulder, and it was sewn directly into his jacket and had long since faded from its colors. Ever deployed, his great sword belt was crowded: sword, daggers, a coin purse, a small book, a metal drinking mug, spare D-rings, a loop of keys, a half-dozen pouches with double snap closures, and other articles. He was distinguished by his rather large gloves, buckled around the wrist, which appeared to be the favorite part of his attire. He was rarely seen without them. In sharp contrast, Hacks's look was entirely singular. Where Balaroy's build and belongings abled him to stand his ground against all dangers, Hacks's were intended for taking ground, for movement. He had a lean and athletic build with excellent proportions. His sword belt had few things on it, for where Balaroy brought most of his effects with him, Hacks was content to find them wherever he went. Thus he travelled featherlight. His hair was short, well set, the colour of hay, and combed straight back. He had a good face, always set in grim determination, either towards solving those tasks before him or thinking back on that singular defeat that had cost him an eye and kept him silent for over a decade. That first loss, his left eye, was covered by a simple black eye patch. His leather wardrobe mainly consisted of dark colours, except his coat, which had a dull bluish-grey hint. Looking past the slashes and tears of his attire, one noticed its quality: he was once a wealthy man. Stopping by one of the Sablers' many open yard stoves, Balaroy dropped a coin in the cook's money box, and took a fresh seasoned chicken leg from the grill. Halfway through it, he turned to that section of the yard where the pier of Ventures regularly rested, but it was not there. "Ha," Balaroy said, taking a last bite at the chicken leg. "Is it just me, old boy, or is something missing?" When he turned to see if the strange terrace had been relocated within the high walls of Anzioch, he was nearly stabbed by the bill of a swordfish carried by an old grey mariner across his back. "Oh, sorry, sir," the man said, stepping around him. Balaroy touched the bill, then wiggled it, chuckling, "Killed by a broadbill. Well, nothing on land can kill me. Why not let the sea have her chance?" As the man continued his way, Balaroy gestured to the empty lot. "You wouldn't happen to know where that went, would you? That old venture? Aye, off to war it went without so much as a whisper. That lovely Yale child raised away on it, the blue-haired one. Took her friends with her, she did, and those birds. A most volatant stone if ever there was one." Unaware of what volatant meant, Balaroy looked over to Hacks, who gestured to the sky. "Ah yes, volatant. Of course." Sniffing once, Balaroy asked. "She didn't happen to say where she was going, did she?" "No sir, can't say she did. No sooner had she spoken with the old Eastern than she stole off. Talk is she's off to land that mad butcher, another 7th of bloody old Quinn." The man laughed, My money is on the girl. Shrugging into the fish, the man walked off to the kitchens. Mark my words, he shouted. In time they'll call this whole mess the Maiden's War. The Old Eastern, eh? Balaroy said, repeating the colloquial name for their commander, General Girolamo, who had been born in the Eastern fortunes. Throwing away the chicken leg, Balaroy approached one of the night watch's writing desks. Pulling out a page from a leather portfolio, he tapped it, saying, Hacks, to pen, we must write something clever to exonerate ourselves from this predicament, this recurring shame to which she keeps abandoning us. Hacks sat down, found a quill, and placed an inkwell on the desk. Ready, he waited on Balaroy. Balaroy puffed on his cigar, saying, to whoever it must more likely than not eventually at some point really worry, no, scratch that, new sentence. Let's see. Sirs, that young blue-haired jackrabbit you foisted on me is, no, scratch that, new sentence. Lady Yale is by her own hand, nowhere to be found. I am not saying the Loring King's granddaughter has been ruthlessly decapitated and flayed alive, or the other way around if necessary, but most likely, no, scratch that, new sentence. My esteemed lords, the princess has disappeared again like a mad Roclavian lake eel, no, scratch that, new sentence. Hacks, what's faster? A blackbuck or a rock dove? Balaroy asked loudly to everyone near him. He reached out and caught a passing Sabler foot soldier and repeated the question. Couldn't say. But a cheetah? That fast lad can run down bad news, which sounds like what you're writing. The lancer turned back to his duty. The heavy assassin mumbled, what's a cheetah? Anyway, all that, so on and so forth. Your most dependable, incorrupt, and undefeated servant, Balaroy. Hacks scribbled as Balaroy smoked his cigar. On finishing the report, Hacks sprinkled some fine powder to dry it. Then blowing on it, he handed it to Balaroy, who read it. Hacks, old boy, you are a perfect liar. Ever plausible as all good poets should be. Yes, you have added weight to light. He read a little more. Discomfiture? What's that mean? Who cares? Discomfiture, I like it. Excellent, Hacks. Excellent. Hacks, as was his way, said nothing. However, he reached over and slipped a banknote from Balaroy's wad. Balaroy looked down at his winnings, now 1 bill short. Typically a fight would ensue after such effrontery, but this was Hacks, who if nothing else was his friend. Yes. By God, why not? Balaroy laughed, a writer is worth his wages. My friend, you have a velvet hand. With that, the two men went off in search of other diversions. This ends part 5 of the 6th Kuinkazner. Please like, share, and subscribe. This has been a World of El-Suwan recording. This excerpt from the 6th Kuinkazner was created using AI-assisted speech generation. Some inflections and pronunciations are not exact to the original text. Thank you for listening to the World of El-Suwan. Copyright 2023. World of El-Suwan. All rights reserved.